It's a big week when it comes to the Grizzlies. Even though they're not playing, now that we've reached the conference final stage of the NBA playoffs, we can anticipate all NBA teams being announced this week. In Grizzlies land, that's significant because if Jaren Jackson Jr. is named to one of the all NBA teams, he's eligible for a Supermax extension, which shapes how the Grizzlies will move forward with their roster construction. What's Jaren think of being a Memphis Grizzly moving forward? Here's from
just being somewhere for a long time and having familiarity with the staff and my teammates. And, I mean, that's huge. I don't take that for granted because I know the other side of that. And it's fun. I mean, we're like a family.
So Jaren's made it pretty clear that he probably wants to be in Memphis as long as the options are there and money lines up, those kinds of things. All NBA is certainly something we've been discussing a lot here in Memphis. In your mind, people you've talked to, does it feel like he will make one of those three All-NBA teams?
Oh, man, it is so hard to tell right now. It's so close. If you followed some of the early voting, even that suggested that it was going to be really borderline. The way that the Grizzlies struggled towards the end of the season, I worry a little bit that it's going to hurt his chances, especially, he came back after that ankle injury. He wouldn't say it, but I don't think he was fully at 100%. When he did come back.
He's trying to get to that 65-game mark.
Yeah, just trying to pass the minimum. And, I in the end, if he doesn't make it, I think there's other avenues that the Grizzlies can take. But right now, if I had to guess, I mean, based on the voting that I've seen, I'd probably guess he's going to miss the list. But I'm not confident in saying that. I think that it's going to be a very close vote. And if you're the Grizzlies, for a lot of reasons, you really hope he is on that list, and he is an All-NBA player.
Supermax eligibility gives him up to $350 million. If he doesn't, they can kind of maneuver around to $240 million. Let's talk about the actual making of All-NBA. He's up to Supermax extension, gives him $350 million or up to. Do you think the Grizzlies would give him that? And if they do or don't, why would?
I don't think that they can fork over $350 million over 5 years. That just feels like it's too much. That sort of contract is made for the very best players in the league, the top 5, the MVP candidates. That type of contract isn't made for a player like Jaren. So, but they can pay him up to that amount, right?
Sure.
So there is a number. I mean, you would have to assume based on the season he had, it'd be more than what Desmond Bane got. He would become the highest paid player. That feels pretty safe in this scenario where he makes All-NBA. But it's also important, this part of this conversation is important because if he makes All-NBA, whatever decision you might make in order to try to put an extension on the table for him, it opens up the door and the window to sign more players and kick that money further down the line, where next season you're able to add a little bit more because Jaren's extension doesn't kick in until 2026, 27, right? So that's the reason why the Grizzlies and all their fans should really be cheering for Jaren to make All-NBA, should really be hopeful that happens, because it's going to give the team more flexibility right now. I mean, we saw the way that the team fizzled out at the end of the season. No one was happy with that. I think the Grizzlies are going to be open-minded in discussing trades this summer and figuring out what direction they can go. I do also think that Jaren Jackson Jr., as of right now, and based on what they made it sound like at exit interviews, is going to be part of the plan moving forward. If you want if that's the case, if Jaren is coming back and you want to have him be a part of this, but you also want to turn over some of this roster and get some fresh bodies in, the best scenario is for Jaren to make All-NBA for the Grizzlies. Otherwise, some of what they're going to have to do this summer is really going to handcuff them if Jaren's going to be that big of a priority.
So if in the event that he does not make All-NBA, he can go up to $240 million.
Yes.
In terms of they can still extend him, just not necessarily at the Supermax extension level. When you look at what that looks like, what do you think that number probably hovers at the 240, and how does it handicap the Grizzlies if he doesn't get that Supermax extension?
Sure, there's a number of things that will have to happen in order to get Jaren extended if he doesn't make All-NBA. I think the first thing that you're looking at is a renegotiate and extend. So the Grizzlies can only extend off of his current salary right now. and I think it's 40%. Like it would be his current salary and raise it by 40%, and they could do that over 4 years. Well, that wouldn't pay Jaren enough money. Like he could get much more money if he just waited to free agency. So that never made much sense. I think part of the reason why they traded Marcus Smart out was because it opened the window to do something like this where you could renegotiate and extend. If they renegotiate, when I talk about handicap, when they renegotiate, they would have to essentially release the cap holds on 3 of the different players, on probably make a trade, John Conchar, maybe. I mean, I think they like Brandon Clark, but like that could shed some salary. Find a way to open up more money to pay Jaren more next season. And if you're paying Jaren more next season, then you could extend off of that bigger contract that you're going to pay him next season. That's how you get to that $240 million. Well, the problem with that is if you're paying him more next season, you're saying goodbye to Luke Kennard. You're saying goodbye to Lamar Stevens. You're saying goodbye to Marvin Bagley. You have less money to work with. You have to go into the beginning of the offseason under the salary cap. That makes you what's called a room team. Mm-hmm. If you're a room team, then you have exceptions to sign players. They would have roughly $5 million on a biannual and then $9 million on a room mid-level exception. If Jaren makes All-NBA, then they're going into the offseason over the salary cap, which is in this case a good thing because it would allow them to access a non-taxpayer, so the Grizzlies aren't above the first apron. Yeah. So they get
that mid-level exception, right?
They would get roughly a $14 million mid-level extension versus a $9 million if they have to shed salary and start the offseason under the salary cap because they know, hey, next season we're going to pay Jaren a lot more money so we can extend him off of that number and we can keep him here for the long term. It's really complex. Yeah. I'm sure we just confused some people, and I'm sorry.
But if they go back and listen to it, a couple of times, they'll definitely kind of figure it out. And of course, they can read your writing about it as well.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. One quick note as we kind of look ahead to our next block here in a minute, but you had some reporting about a potential Tomas Isalo connection overseas and one TJ Shorts. Can you kind of explain what that is?
Yeah, it got reported from an overseas publication that TJ Shorts was going to come to the Grizzlies, and that day
made some buzz. Started to have people chit-chatting about it.
Yeah, the internet sort of took a hold of that and just took it as the truth. That day I reported, though, no commitments between TJ Shorts and the Grizzlies. TJ can get paid a lot more money, frankly, to play overseas. And the Grizzlies, they wouldn't be able to sign a player that's from overseas until free agency starts on July 1st. We just talked about all this stuff that has to be worked out. We just talked about the fact that they might end up making some trades, finding ways to get fresh bodies for the start of next season. I mean, we don't know what their needs are going to be. We don't know if they make a trade and they bring in a third point guard. Like, we have no idea what's going to come next. So how could the Grizzlies know that they need a third point guard at this point? So I'm not saying it's impossible. It just seems unlikely at this point that TJ Short will be a Grizzly.
And for those who don't know, TJ Short is kind of short. He's about 5'9", 5'10".
Yeah.
But we do know the Grizzlies do love themselves a 5'9", 5'10" point guard a la Yuki Kawamura and a couple of those other guys. So